I would like to call to order the Kaiser City Council and work session. It is Monday, February 24th, 2025. And ask our city recorder to please call roll for the record.
Councilor Parsons?
Here.
Councilor Kohler?
Here.
Councilor Cross?
Here.
Mayor Clark?
Here.
Council President Starr?
Here.
Councilor Christopher?
Here.
Councilor Dran?
Here.
Can be coached. All right. Tonight's work session is going to be focused around our short and long-term goals. So Mr. Brown has a PowerPoint to help us get started, and then we will go through talking about the projects we already have underway, because we want to be realistic with our staff resources, things about that we're interested in pursuing that we've been talking about, a number of things we've brought up. Hey, let's put a pin in it for work session. And then what I'd like to do, if we have time, is wrap up with looking at the list of town hall topics, work sessions, some of them that are one-off, some of them that are annual, so we can get an idea of how we want to lay this work out going through the rest of the year. We're not going to schedule everything, but to kind of lay out the ones that we've already identified. So that's kind of the framework for tonight as we move forward. Sound good? All right. Mr. Brown.
Okay, I just have a little bit of a raspy voice, so out of caution, that's why I'm wearing a mask. I'll try not to turn to my left or right, so I don't get my colleagues sick. What I have here on this slide, if it comes up, advances. Yeah, let's see. I'll go over there. There we go. These are things that we've heard you talk about, have been past year's goals and or things that are in process. So we know you've talked a lot about the urban growth boundary expansion or not, and the next steps, and that seems to be reasonable that it would carry on in the next cohort. The transportation system plan is something that is, right now we're receiving proposals on it, and they'll be evaluating it and then awarding that. So that process is probably a 12 to 18 month process. So that's likely something that could be finished or near completed during this 2-year cohort. The emergency operations plan revision, we just signed the contract to work with the consultant so that we can update that. That's not a huge one. That could also exist as a staff plan. Wouldn't have to necessarily be a council goal.
Yeah, press pause. Question, Councilor Christopher?
So what is entailed in the emergency operations revision?
So it's primarily an update of, well, there's two parts that I really need. Back in 2009 when it was done, we were really only talked about natural disasters in that era. And now what we don't have in our plan, but should be in a contemporary plan, is man-made disasters, terrorism, mass shootings, things like that. So a lot of the corrections are just grammar, syntax, context. We've already done that in-house, and technically it should be adopted at some point, but we're going to go with those modern, the updated revision right now. The main thing that the consultant will probably add to our plan is those man-made disaster responses. So that's the big thing for this plan.
Okay, and so, follow it.
Follow it.
So some of that work other folks have done, and there are other folks who are adjacent to us, or certainly that we're in business with, and so that they're all incorporated into that.
Yep.
So that shouldn't be a giant.
No.
Okay. So
And the fact that we have this consultant help through a county grant should make it very easy.
So what timeline are you looking at for that?
We're at the mercy of the consultant, but I think in the first year, within a year, we should.
At the end of this year? By December of '25.
Yeah, assuming that the
Okay.
consultant, again, it's all dependent on the consultant's schedule.
Okay.
But we've signed something, a go-ahead with them, so.
Okay.
And like you said, a lot of those annexes,
Yeah.
which we call them annexes for each type of disaster, are in Salem's plan because the Marion County Emergency Management Officer was the Salem emergency manager, and now he works for the county. So he wrote all those. He's a great person to work with. His whole team, in fact, is great to work with, and they are really top notch emergency
Okay,
management.
so that's literally cut and paste almost because,
Almost.
yeah, because we're in partnership with these folks because of our adjacency.
Yep.
Okay.
So that makes it something that is doable in the 2-year timeframe. Because right now, we're talking, and these are specifically in this 2-year timeframe. We'll talk about the long-term, the ones that we expect to go past the 2-year timeframe. So that's where we're talking right now, correct?
Right.
Okay. Counselor Cross?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So if it is a cut and paste and it is something that we're working with the City of Salem on, is it necessary to have a consultant or can we share those costs with City of Salem?
That was good.
We're not paying anything for it.
It's very-
It's actually
I
done.
didn't hear the part where they talked about a grant.
Yeah, it's a grant through Marion County. They got a grant to help every city within the county, which is a huge.
Yeah, so,
Awesome.
sorry, I have PTSD when I hear consultant.
No worries, no worries.
I just hear dollars.
Yeah,
So,
it's.
I didn't hear the
it's,
grant part.
Your county tax dollars.
so yeah, no, we're good. Thank you.
You bet.
Well, and as a reminder, a lot of work has already gotten started with updating some of the, because Adam worked really hard on that when you first got here too, going, what? Some of the stuff was just way out of date. And it was a top priority, and this by him just completed because we realized that it needed to be done. So that work is already well underway to make sure that we're well poised to get the best value out of that consultant. I won't say bang for the buck because we're not paying anything, but the value out of that consultant's time. Okay, follow up?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just think that it is for people watching, when we do hear consultant, I hear dollars. So I think that if we can say consultant paid for by a grant, that is super helpful.
He did say it.
In the same sentence over and over. If I
Yes.
just logged in right now, I'd be like, ugh. Just saying. Just saying. I mean,
All right,
not
kids.
everybody lives and breathes.
Moving on.
So they were.
Speaking of, and we might have the opportunity to test it out tonight, depending on what the weather does. So, good times.
They,
Okay, so emergency operation plan revision, fantastic.
they've.
Go ahead. Yeah, just proceed.
So, Councilor Gross, they're putting on a lot of peer pressure too. I would push back on that. Yeah. So the 5-year strategic plan, that's something we collect a lot of data on. We got a lot more data when the council sent it back to all the committees and boards, and we haven't really analyzed that yet. So without, I'm not going to use the word consultant because we have a guy that was on the planning commission, and he was a strategic planner for Hewlett Packard. And I met with him last week, and this is just an option. We could also go it alone too, but he's offered to help facilitate that for free. So something to think of, his name's Mo Avishon. I think
Avisham.
Avishon. I think Councilor Christopher might have met with him. He said he met you and talked with you, but
You know, Counselor Duran, you know him.
you're just
Yeah.
that popular. So.
Yeah.
I may have met him. I don't think we met.
Okay.
I don't think we had a conversation, but I may have met him.
Yeah. He structure-wise for a strategic plan, he's right on the same thinking as I am in my practice of it. So I feel comfortable with that. His approach. He said he'd meet with you individually up first, and then work together with you. So that's an option. The other option is that we can facilitate that with staff. So 2 options there. Neither of them do we need to put out money. I think the big thing we heard from you was as much citizen input and boards and committees. And like I said, we have a big data set that hasn't been evaluated yet. That's the stuff that we got from committees and boards last year.
So if I might suggest, because Mo Avisham has already, he's a resident of the community, he's got expertise, would you ask him to send us his resume? So for those of us who aren't as familiar with his skill set, could read that and evaluate what that could look like for working with him. And he's also, I think last year you showed me something that he sent about looking at strategic planning. What could this look like? What are kind of the next steps? What are some of the questions and so forth? And when I read it over, I found it really helpful to put some framework in my thinking. So if we could send that out to the council for us to look at, I think it's really worth taking the groundwork that's already been done and being able to put it into a plan of operation and get some more value out of that plan, because the staff's already using it. So I'm going to go Councilor Christopher and then Councilor Cross.
So I really like that. I'm surprised, I'm kind of surprised to hear you talk this way. You were not in favor of using a volunteer to help with economic development, but I think we should grab these people who are subject matter experts and are willing to help us and do it for their own personal satisfaction, really. And so I think that we should look at this guy for sure. And then I think that we, the city council, should determine how we want to move forward with him. Like, rather, before he meets with us individually, maybe we meet as a group to say, here's where we are with our current draft, and highlight some of the problems that there are with that.
Well, and some of the ideas that have emerged since then, too, because it's already a living document. So over this last year, some things have gotten done, some things have changed. So I think it's a really good opportunity for a reset. And I think that,
Grab volunteers.
well, being able to have that conversation and get this back off the dime, because it got stuck. And this would be a good opportunity to have that conversation. And that says to me work session. So I'm going to put that on the list, because again, we're going to be doing some calendaring. There's only that many Monday nights for us to meet.
I like it.
Councilor Cross.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've known Mo with Travel Oregon for probably over 10 years that he's been, that I've seen him at conferences and whatnot. So I would just say added to that, if we're giving him the opportunity, maybe putting it out there for, maybe there's other experts in our city, that we make sure that we're giving them equal opportunity.
Okay.
For free.
For free, the free opportunity.
Let's remember, for free.
Well, I'm pretty sure, yeah, no consultant fees, no, $0, got it, for free, but letting them know that there's opportunities
Okay.
to lend their expertise.
Okay. The Parks Master Plan revision, that is something that's been initiated. It's in progress, so that going through that and then making a decision on it could be part of your goals.
What's the timeline?
We are meeting later this week on the engagement plan, but what we wanted to target was Kaiser Fest. Some of the best data sets you can get is called intercept data, where you stop people that are going to an event on their way out and ask them questions about what would you like? How did you like this park? Is there something else you would like to see at this park? We have some pictures of a potential facility. Do you like this? Do you think this would be good for the park? Anyway, so intercept data, and so that would be one of the bigger feedback mechanisms, and then other feedback mechanisms after Kaiser Fest. So we're looking at probably the summer as a potential for you guys to be working on it and making decisions.
Councilor Christopher.
I like that idea a lot, especially, they've moved it to May, so we don't know what that's going to be, but also you've got the art fair, and the Kaiser Art Association has lots of volunteers that could go through there. We got 1,000, 1,500 people. So that would be another way to capture that. And that's really a different sector than the Kaiser Fest folks, but also you've got a car show there too. So there's lots of different ways in which to collect that. So you're thinking, is what if I understand what you're saying then, you put together, singing to me now, but it's still dark. So you're putting together a list of questions, and you would have like people to people, like I would ask Shani.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'd be
No, I
the
like
same-
that idea.
It'd be the same thing so that the data would be
that idea.
consistent.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
And we did that prior to the parks fee. We did that same exact thing.
Yeah, we did. Multiple locations.
And Bill and I have talked about putting, without just having nothing to react to, putting an upper boundary and a lower boundary. Like the upper boundary, I think, was what we came through in that last request for the Community Prosperity Initiative, which was like 250 by 100 feet. And then the lower boundary would be something like the tent size, the size of the tent for Kaiser Fest. Also, they could also say, no, we don't want anything else here too. But as far as concepts for people to look at, we say upper
would
boundary,
be-
lower boundary.
And it wouldn't be just the pavilion, it would be, what else? Okay.
Well, this opening is specific for this pavilion.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, while we're there, while we're talking,
Sure, yeah, we could
talk.
might as well ask them, yeah, is there anything else you'd like to see?
great.
And it's similar, to, again, having that range, from 0 to Wowzer is similar to what we did with the parks fee. We had everything from 0 to the different levels, and then we got people's feedback, and that's how it zeroed in on the range we have, and we got it right, because it hasn't had a change
Yeah, I love
since
Richard Walsh.
8 years.
Richard Walsh says somewhere between a tent and the Moda Center. I thought, yeah, there's a visual.
Oh, wow. And I can see the headline now. City Council discusses Moda Center at Kaiser. No, I'm not even going to say it because somebody's going to clip it and quote it. So intercept data, so this, again, this is something that's in the 2-year timeframe.
That's good.
Counselor Kohler.
Thank
Wait.
you, Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So to clarify, you said 2-year?
This is we're still talking our short-term goal.
It's not going to take that long,
No, but what we're talking about is up to 24 months.
Okay, got it.
So if, for whatever reason, as we're setting these goals, we know that they can be completed within the 2-year timeframe. That's the parameters here.
Okay,
And if we get it done early, yahoo. If it takes the full 2 years because we wanted to do more or has some additional data or something, we have the grace to do it. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. Councilor Cross, did I skip you? Okay, Councilor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's interesting, when we first met with the consultants about the master plan, they were talking about Taj Mahal.
the Taj Mahal, the Moda Center?
Oh, swell.
Okay.
Anybody listening to the recording, we're not talking anything that big. Unless you want, anyway, nope. No, don't go there. Okay, but speaking of, is that it on the master plan? Oh, Councilor Parsons?
Are we done with the parks?
That's what I'm about to ask. Are we good on this?
I'm on the next one, that's why I'm asking.
Of course you are.
Yes, thank you.
But the Parks Master Plan revision, does this fit the parameters that you had in mind when this came up? Yeah. Did we skip anything? Checking. Mr. Brown?
So actually, I'll defer to this one, Councilor Parsons. This is something that she would.
Thank you, yes. So,
She's not enthusiastic.
no, not at all. This is the 10-year anniversary of the Big Toy. So excited. Can you tell? Very excited. Matt Lawyer and I haven't had a chance to talk to the parks because Matt was sick. We're going to bring it up at the next Parks Board meeting. We're going to have a Big Toy tune-up. 2 days, probably we'll have to have it closed because the first day, my understanding is they'll need to wash it all down or something, and then it has to dry, and then once it's washed down, then we can paint. I'm looking at you, because you're going to really let us know exactly what we need to do, but we'd really like to have this done by June, I don't really know the exact date. Yes, when the kids are out of school. And we'd like to have a re-grand opening with a big celebration of the 10-year, but we really want it to look new again. We want the floor patched where the holes are. We want it all painted, but we want to get a work crew and just do all volunteer, of course, just like we did when we built it.
Well, it's the first I've heard of it. I think it's a great goal. I think it's very easily accomplished. I think your 2-day closure might be a bit short. From experience from washing things down, they don't dry overnight to make it paintable, so we might want to think about
Couple
a
days.
longer-term closure.
Okay?
You mentioned something that I was going to ask about. You have a vision of the surfacing being repaired. Better get going on that now,
Okay.
because that contractor is busy, 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 and
Okay.
then they're still busy. So
Okay.
trying to get them in town to do the repairs at the right time, I got to go now. So I'll get working on that.
Perfect, thank you. I appreciate that. Because that obviously needs to be done first before we paint, and because the painting, I think, is the last thing, and then we just want to reopen it again, brand new like it was 10 years ago,
So,
Or as new as it can be.
as new as it can be.
Yes.
So this is, put it in the short-term goal, but I mean, my hope is we're having it done in 6 months, not 24, so.
so with that, this is a budget allocation, and we're asking for it in this fiscal year, so we're going to have to wait to make sure that this is in the budget?
It's not, but I'll find it.
Okay,
I will, no, it's not unanticipated. It's in the capital improvements in the park services fee. There is unspent money this year that's planned to be carried over to next year for the Bob Newton Park project. If this big toy project is a priority for the council, I'll make it happen. We may have to delay or cut back in Bob Newton a little bit, but I'll make it happen.
okay. And following up on that, yes, this is an ambitious timeline, but again, would you come back to us with a feasible timeline, knowing that there's a great deal of excitement and kids want to play on it and big kids want to do this, but that way the planning for the volunteers and getting it on their calendars, the team could help out Councilor Parsons with getting that going. So is that something that you can have available to us
Soon,
soonish?
soonish. I like the ish.
Yeah?
Thought just occurs to me from a planning standpoint. You might want to consider planning a little later in the summer
Well, that's what I said
because
to Matt Lawyer, but-
June
Yeah,
is unpredictable weather-wise.
that's what I told him.
So, but just a thought.
Again,
Just a thought.
but this is the dream, and you're going to be our reality check.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's true.
Okay.
You are, and then Parks Board too, because they're going to be in on this too. They don't know it all yet, but they're going to be in on this too.
Oh, they're being voluntold?
The big voluntold thing, yeah.
I'm going to go to Council President Starr, and they'll go to Councilor Christopher.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Lawyer, did I hear you say you would cut back on Bob Newton Park? And I guess
What I said was if there was, it might be necessary or needed to cut back or delay some of the second phase of Bob Newton to find the money in this year's budget that would be carried into next year's budget for Bob Newton. I'm guessing it's probably going to be about $20,000 or $25,000 to fix that surfacing. Hopefully I'm high on that. So when I say delay, it's not huge in the whole scope of the overall project at Bob Newton, and I'm not far enough in the pricing of the first phase yet to know for sure. I'm just voicing potential.
Okay, I don't think in reality we thought it was going to be that much, so,
yeah,
There's a fair number of areas of the servicing that need to be repaired.
Yeah, they
okay.
do.
I know they need to be repaired, right?
Yes, and it's not cheap.
Okay.
And I think my number's high, honestly, I really do. But I'll get on that, and I'll get a refined number as soon as I can and report it back to council so we'll know what the potential implications moving forward might be.
All right, thank you.
All right, Councilor Christopher, and then Councilor Kohler.
Just so you know, my plug wasn't working. Had nothing to do with me. So I'm so glad that Marion County is in the room because one of the big toys' biggest attractions is the fire truck, which if you remember, was a combined effort between Kaiser Fire and Marion County, and we settled on red. And so where the sprinklers come down, it's really bad there. So, but I just know you guys, and all your equipment is always top-notch, first-rate, shiny, shiny. And so I really think this reflects badly, but I mean, it's been 10 years. And for 10 years, that little playground, I was with my little 4-year-old grandson, and for 10 years, it's held up amazingly well, really has. It's just paint. But I want you to have the joy of being involved with the restoration of that fire truck. And I even talked with Counselor Parsons about maybe adding a bell. How much fun would the kids have if there was a bell? I know it would drive parents crazy, but they would love it. Or if we can think of what value-added things could we add, because it's part of the 10-year anniversary. So, I know that will bring you joy, because it does. You guys were joyful the first time. So I'm glad you're here. She's not excited either. I'm very excited.
No, nobody's excited about this.
I'm very excited.
Counselor Kohler?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Layer, it seems I was around, had something to do with the Big Toy when we put that pour-in-place mat down. Were we anticipating that it was going to wear out or be damaged like it has as quickly?
Honestly, it's wearing in some areas faster and more than we anticipated, but generally, no, we're pretty happy with the performance. And the very worst part's right by the merry-go-round.
Yeah.
And there's good reason for that. That's the same place that everybody pushes the kids from, stands, and there's a lot of force that goes there. As I mentioned the other night, I believe I found some product in Arizona at a playground, same kind of servicing that they had put down and added to toughen up those areas. We've sent that. I know Robert sent that information, pictures of it to our vendor, so we can, when we make the repairs, we can add that piece to it so that it helps prolong the life of the servicing in those areas.
Follow up?
And actually, I will, and then I'll follow up with you. I just flew in this morning from Mesa, and I was at one of those parks that had those surfaces and had the enhanced, because I could feel it was different. And it is thicker. There's a higher density to it. And this was a very, very, very heavily used park, and it looked fantastic. So I will attest to what he said. I'm going to go to Councilor Parsons, and then, did you have something? I did. Okay, I'm sorry. I am going to come back now to Councilor Cross. Will that be all right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
Sure, she's prettier.
sorry.
That's okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So looking at that, I know this is ahead, but we've heard about, as council, the Gold Star Memorial. Lisa's come up, we've talked about it, we've voted on it, we've said yeah. So this is the first that I've heard even from Councilor Parsons, regarding your conversation. So I think that for process, that it would be nice that the committee came to us on these things, because there are some things with parks, or if that we can decide as a council whether it comes from the libraries or whatnot. I mean, I know that one of the things is that the splash pads, I think it was 5 days a week. So maybe if those committees are coming up before we decide that they're part of these goals, that we hear from the parks as a whole. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, they don't even know about it yet.
Yes,
This
so
was
just
live
to
thing.
have that, it's just up there when it's just, which God knows that I love me some Matt and Marlene, but it's just two people that come up here when we have these committees that come up here and talk about it, when it makes sense when the Gold Star Memorial's up here, because there's been tons of conversations.
Right, I understand.
But it's not just these two people coming up here. So that's why I don't understand why it's up there.
Well, I didn't know it was going to be up there, so.
Well, this is one of those things that came up, that it is in need, and the timing seemed well, and we don't want to do it, we don't have to. So this is partly brainstorming. And I'll be asking if there's other things that folks want to do. And also, when we've been talking and said, this seems like a good idea, staff's been keeping track, and then it's up to us to sort. So to your point,
Follow up.
thank you.
But I haven't got an email that said, hey, have we reached out to library or the Heritage Museum to have other opportunities for other people to brainstorm, to bring up? That's my counter to that.
They're not city functions.
They're not city committees.
They're not city committees. I'm sorry,
Well,
I'm a little
or just
confused.
put it out there for the parks, not just Marlene and Matt's brainstorm. How about we just put it right there? There are ideas for the parks. Bring them at us.
Well, and we're going, thank you, and we'll get some more ideas from folks, especially as we do this master planning. I'm looking forward to that as well. All right. Follow up, and then we'll go to Gold Star? Unless
Yes,
there's
on the,
something else.
on the surfacing,
Something?
the same surfaces for surfacing is in all the other parks now, correct? That we put at the Big Toy, is that the same?
Same servicing in all the playgrounds we have replaced and in the last, excuse me, in the last 10 years, every playground we've replaced has that type of surfacing for
Okay,
the,
and how have those surfaces been holding up?
just fine.
Just fine, okay, thank you.
It's the high use at the Big Toy. I mean, that's,
no, I
that's the
understood.
demand or that's not a concern, that's the reason for the wear. It's just the amount of use and hard use it gets.
Right, yeah, oh, I know, it's very, yeah, okay, thank you.
For sure. Okay, one more.
Sorry.
Counselor Christopher.
I would add, Counselor Cross, it really has become a safety issue in the surfacing because in the areas that are used a lot, it's around the merry-go-round. I mean, it's down to the ground.
Well, that's great, but that wasn't mentioned until you just mentioned it.
But this is our planning session when we're talking about these things.
I get that.
And so, but I just wanted to let you know, and Lisa, when Lisa gave the report, she was unaware because Matt was sick that they had met. So it's just timing. No one's trying to keep you out of anything.
No, I don't think anybody's trying to keep me out of anything, but I think that sometimes when we have conversations with residents and they feel like maybe they could have been kept out of things, that we need to be diligent in how we're keeping other people involved.
I agree.
So
Mr. Brown,
we're ready to go on.
Gold Star?
And just to add, this doesn't mean you have to have it in the short-term goals, and it also wouldn't stop you from adding something later if you wanted to delay a decision on that and wait for them to come back to you. You could always add it later. So then next, the Gold Star Memorial, like many of you said, something we've been talking about for a while, and put some money towards, some city funding towards, and some fundraising has been going towards it. So, and then the last thing on the bottom is something. Again, these are amongst things we've heard from one or more of you. What a discount program for under 60 and in need. That was something that came up during the budget last year. We have a program for 60 and over because it's coterminous with the City of Salem's policy. So if they qualify for the Salem's wastewater policy, then we automatically do it. So, but we don't have one for under 60. So again, that's another thing that's been out there for us to bring back, and it could be added to the short-term goals. So.
No, they don't. So, so just to reiterate, the Kaiser program and the Salem program, because wastewater is under the same fee structure, they're the same. So if we want to do a separate one that is for people under 60 and have an income-based need, and isn't that how we base, it's income-based or is by request? Self-attestation?
You're correct, Madam Mayor. It is self-attestation. I can't even talk.
Take their word for it.
Yeah, I'll take your word for it. They do provide us some information. We have a checklist of documents that we typically like to look at, but we don't necessarily require them to bring them in.
Okay. So if we want to do a separate program for people in the same income stresses, we also, we can do that, and/or don't we also for city-based, I'm trying to remember, if people come in like a one-time or they've got, they want to know where to get energy assistance and so forth, we refer?
That is correct, Madam Mayor.
Okay. And then we would need to know, get an idea of what that would cost in terms of the budgetary impact. Is this something that you would like to have come to, is there a question? Is this something that you would like to have come to long-range planning, either coming up or into our next budget cycle? Council President Starr?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think I was one of the people that brought it up last year. I think at least in for the beginning part of the conversation, I don't necessarily think that we can move fast enough to do a good job of implementing it for this budget cycle. But I think for the next year, I would like to see us explore how this might be designed. So we have a year to put it together and do some financial modeling on what the impact might be for the next fiscal year. So it would be the 26-27 fiscal year. So take a fiscal year to plan and do some modeling and projections, and then bring it back for consideration of implementation for the 26-27 fiscal year.
No, stormwater's ours, and water's ours. Wastewater, we don't control.
So just those two.
So it would just be for the utilities that we control, and those,
Water and just what we control.
yeah, just what we control, yeah. So, yeah, and that'd be a good question to ask. What do you think?
I like it. I think we need to explore it.
Okay. Okay. So there's time. So this is something we're looking, we're not taking public comment. Kristen? Yeah. Chief? We're not taking public comment at this time. Thank you. So I appreciate that. Moving on to the next page.
So this, these two items are things that have been in the wings that it doesn't necessarily need to be part of your council goals, but you could make it a part if you want. We have had a draft ADA plan that was created, gosh, a while ago, and for some reason it wasn't brought back for approval. And it's just a plan. It says, it identifies your weaknesses and your gaps. We end up having, whenever time we apply for a grant, if you don't have one of these in place, you end up doing a site analysis for it anyway. If you have one of these in place, then it's just to check the box, boom, and you're done. And it doesn't mean that you have to have, completed or finished the whole plan, but like I said, it was long before I got here. This plan was done, and it just wasn't implemented.
So if I remember correctly, we contracted with the Council of Governments to produce this. Is that right, Mr. Lawyer? Okay. And this is something that we use for reference when we're doing projects, and I'll come to Councilor Cruz. Was it what?
Is it up to date?
Yeah, the ADA transition plan was created for the city by the Council of Governments with cooperation of city staff. Basically outlines, what areas of the city should we focus on for ADA compliance. One of the biggest ones is parks. I know that's not a shock to any of you. The good news is, since that has been prepared and put together, we have accomplished a lot of things on the list just through normal practice, I will say. But Mr. Brown's correct. It does benefit the city to have a city council adopted plan. It's going to need to be revisited to make sure we haven't overlooked anything, we haven't added anything that wasn't in our possession before that was done. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, so we'll need to dust it off and look at it real close or real quick, but it should be pretty close to being adoptable in its current form.
So does anybody object putting this into our 2-year window?
No, let's do it.
Mr. Brown, what do you think?
I think it's something we should do, and like I said, if it amounts to the level of a council short-term goal, then that's why I throw it out there.
So it's a matter of accountability, is saying, we've identified this, council, we want to make sure that you understand that we're going to be putting effort toward this. Is that correct? Council President Starr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Brown, I was looking at the top label and on the column, potential goals for consideration or could just be staff goals. I'm just curious, like what the difference in your mind and the executive leadership team have in mind for where something would be a staff goal versus when it would be a council goal?
Cleanup of ordinances.
So this is actually something I've had in conversations with several of you. This has come up where you said, well, that's not really a council's goals. That's an administrative thing. For instance, if you look back at our short-term goals on the poster back there, and they're in your packet too, the HRIS, and we're really thankful that we had the council's support, and we needed financial support to do that. Several of you have told me, not just one person, they said, well, yeah, that's staff's goals, and so long as we have your support on those things, they don't necessarily be you. I've heard from several councils they want these to be our external goals, so that's why the differentiation.
Like the next goal, I think, is a staff goal.
I would agree, except guess who is going to be having to adopt all of those?
We are.
So, and agreed. So part of my approach to this is also for us to understand the level of work on the large projects that staff is leading, but that we're going to have some interface with. So we understand the projects, the big projects that are happening within the city. And as the staff gets these done, we are going to have input. There's going to be some interaction that we have. I think it's important for us to put it in the short-term goals, so we don't go, oh, there's only about 5 goals. We have time now to brainstorm for more. We have plenty of work. So part of that is also communication out into the community. These are things that we collectively are working on, and I think it's an important communication tool. So that's why I would put it in there. So that's how I'm thinking about it.
What I would add to that is your goals come first, too. When we come to prioritizing our time, whatever you decide as your priorities is what our marching orders are, so to speak. Or your goals become our goals. So,
Council President Starr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think that for me, when I look at the cleanup of ordinances, that seems like that's a natural byproduct of the codification, and it is an administrative staff thing that as they're coming across them, they just bring them to us to be updated. So I'm not sure that I really look at that as a council goal.
and the other part of that, kind of in support of that position, is that we don't know how to enumerate that.
Yeah.
We don't know, because we don't know how many we're going to come across, how many we're going to be able to fix that we come across. And so it's nice to be able to measure what you're going to do and have a goal. And that's someone we probably can't really have a goal for because we don't know. So but I throw it out there because it's been in discussion.
Thank you.
I absolutely agree. I think the ADA plan can be a council goal because there's an end product. We're going to have an adopted plan. But the cleanup of ordinances, well, we're going to keep on changing stuff over time. I would agree. Would you guys feel comfortable having the ADA plan included in the goals, and then cleanup of ordinances, we know we're going to be just busy? That's
But is the plan almost already done, though?
Yes.
well,
So I'm not sure why we'd make it a goal if it just needs to be
it's not
reviewed
adopted.
but it's like
I see.
done, right? For the most part, it just needs to kind of be refreshed and then brought forward. And so while in my crazy mind, I might write things down on my to-do list that I've already done just so I can like cross them off.
Because it feels good.
Because it feels good and it feels like I'm accomplishing something. If this ADA plan is nearly completed, it just needs to be
Adopted.
brought to us for adoption. I don't necessarily think of that as a goal, because a goal is something like it's a kind of a project based or a larger thing that we want to look into doing. And so for me, I think the ADA plan is, again, kind of an administrative staff thing to bring to us to finish or to adopt and implement.
I would go along with that.
Mr. Lawyer, I see the wheels turning.
No, I think that's pretty accurate. I don't, the bulk of the work, the heavy lifting is done. Just dust it off, freshen it up, make sure it's accurate for adoption and get it adopted.
Right?
Yeah,
Okay.
Let's do it. Get dusting.
And
Brown?
I want to get this done so Joe's assistant can stop pinging me about it. So.
Great, let's do it.
You know, happy Tammy, happy life. I
That's
know it
right.
doesn't rhyme, but it's a true statement.
And I want the dopamine hit from checking the box.
All right. So that sounds like a good plan, but thank you for letting us know that these are two things that we can anticipate coming to us. Is there anything on the short-term goals in your mind that we missed?
And so I didn't mean this to be comprehensive too. I laid these out and with the intention for you to go back and I can check the box to whether you want to add them or not. And then, I wanted to, as the mayor said, now open up the floor. What did we miss?
And the one I was going to ask about, code enforcement. This is something that we've known that we have a great need for, to enhance, to find a different methodology or some way to increase our capacity in code enforcement. So I just want to toss that out there that this is a need for our livability, and we hear from people all the time. And we only have one Ben, and as last time I checked, cloning is not legal. Councilor Christopher.
So are you talking about our problems with sidewalks? What are you talking about? Like, give me some examples.
Some examples are, we only have one Ben, and he's got to cover homeless camps, broken sidewalks, tall grass, anything that's code enforcement, he's got to deal with it. And I don't know if there's a plan going forward to enhance our ability. Oh, apparently, I'm already singing somebody else's tune. Mr. Brown?
There, we are trying something out. Chief Copeland has had some open positions. He's done some re-strategizing on how to best use those. And over the past couple months, we've been talking between Chief and I and some talks with Director Witham. He has reallocated one of those positions to a job description that he has, community service officer. So it is the exact same grade, I believe, as the code enforcement officer, but it gives us a match of a person in the police department to match with the person in planning to work together on the issues. And the police department has a few more tools in their bag. And so that's something, the position is actually out for recruitment right now. You may have seen that in the, so we want to see if that works.
Okay, no, I'm good.
Genius.
Yep,
Yeah, really good.
yeah.
So,
It's
You guys-
recorded. Genius.
You anticipated it. Counselor Christopher?
so does that mean, I mean,
Words.
did we, the code enforcement officer, if you go back 10 years, they were not visiting homeless camps and taking care of those issues. They were mostly taking care of tall grass and abandoned, those kinds of things. So is that what would the community service officer be more focused on the police type work, which I know sometimes Ben gets involved in, and that's what, so I love this idea, and I think it's great, but I just want to know, so is that what the work split would be? The more police work-oriented type task would go to the community service officer?
That is correct.
I love that, and you for thinking about it.
All right.
And for the
Ask
record,
and
it
ye shall
wasn't
receive.
just me thinking about it. It's
Well,
good
then whoever it
collaborative
is.
team effort.
Good, good, good.
Genius team effort. How's that?
That's really good.
And the demand from the community has been significant in this area, so I think it's really been responsive to what we're hearing around the neighborhoods. So I appreciate that very much. Well done. Anything else we've missed or that you would like to have included?
I've got a blank sheet, so you fill it up here. I can.
Yeah, no. Counselor Christopher.
I would like to add to our short-term list for consideration, and I don't know where the city council is on this, but we have just sold property, and we are going to be working on master plans. And we've talked in broad conversations about revisiting the Willow Lake Agreement, and that's a 45-year-old agreement. And so in order to do that, I would like to consider spending some of the money that we made on the property we sold for a limited duration planner. I'm not going to say the word Sarita, but it might end up being that word. But I'm thinking 2 to 4 years. I don't know that we need a planner forever. I don't know that. Shane has done a wonderful job as community, what's your title?
Planning Director.
Planning director. But he himself needs help and has said, I'm not a planner. I don't have the education or the experience that a planner would have for situations such as Willow Lake. So I would like to add limited duration planner to our short term, for discussion purposes. I don't know that it'll make it through to the end tonight, but I'd like to add it to our list for consideration.
With the, I'm trying to, having a planner in general, but if the objective is to deal with the overlay zone
That's one.
in, out at Willow Lake, and that is something that I think is in conversation, possibly. We brought that, it came up last Monday, Tuesday, whenever that was.
It's not in discussion in terms of a planner, having a planner for it. It's been brought up, though. What I would also advocate having a planner, whatever structure. I'm trying not to. I was like, oh, how do I get around this? But anyway, for if the council decides to go into the UGB for a great deal of public engagement and/or you make a decision and say, let's go forward, that's another place I would advocate for having supported planning staff.
But we're not quite ready for that conversation because we're going to be doing the town halls. And we were when we talked about doing the town halls, that was something that was going to be done in-house. That was decided to be done in-house. Well, I'd mentioned that and I got shot down, but I'm happy to revisit that.
So can we ask, okay, you got it, great.
We can do the town
Not-
halls,
But I don't want you to put for Willow Lake, just period. Just a limited duration planner to help with planner activities.
For, what's
2 to 4 years.
what's the objective?
Well, the objective is, we've got master plans to develop for the 2 properties that we've sold. We have other property that is city-owned property that is on Shamawa. I think there could be potentially increased interest once these developments on the north side go in. That opens it up and could maybe have some potential on the south side. That's going to require some expertise we currently don't have in-house.
Council President Starr,
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think I have a few questions,
on this?
kind of related, yeah.
Okay, go.
First of all, clarify for me when we're talking about short-term goals versus long-term goals, are we talking 1 and 2 year for the short term and then 3 to 5 for the long term?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's part 1, just wanted to clarify. Second one is, how long has the sidewalk gap and repair program been on the long-term goal? Because at some point, it needs to move to the short term so we actually do something about the goal. So that's number 2. And dang, number 3 just flew out of my mind, and it was really good. Oh, I know. Thank you. So, it could be related, but it could not. So I'll hold my till we're done with the planner question. Or the planner, limited duration planner. I'll just say the word, potential consultant. There, I said it. Okay.
So if we're going to talk about a planner for this, again, limited duration, if we're talking short-term goals, we're talking within 2 years, what is the idea to get accomplished? What I'm hearing is help with the overlay zone, otherwise known as affectionately known as
No, don't say it. Positive?
the potential industrial land opportunities.
Correct.
There we go. Mr. Witham.
Madam Mayor, I will say this, not to be difficult, although
Just be factual.
y'all know me a long time. When we're talking about the Willow Lake Settlement Agreement, probably council's questions about that should be directed to our legal counsel. It was a settlement agreement drafted by lawyers, not planners. So the planning is not difficult in the Willow Lake area.
Initially.
The restriction, yeah, it's zoned what it's zoned. Comp plan zone changes, application-based. Property owner would come and make an application. I would write findings, and I would make a recommendation. We would go through the quasi-judicial process, not unlike what I've done for my whole career here. So like that part is not difficult because we're not the ones that are developing the plans. It's not our property. We don't own any property on Windsor Island Road. So, but that area right now is encumbered by the Willow Lake Settlement Agreement and the boundaries that are there, which really, I don't want to speak out of turn, but it really requires more of a political solution than anything else. It requires concurrence with the jurisdictions that are party to that agreement. So I'm not sure that the planner function is going to help a lot with that. Planners are kind of pretty good with rules and knowing what the rules are and words, but just for what it's worth. So from that piece.
That's super helpful because what I'm hearing then is the desire for exploring options regarding the Willow Lake Settlement Agreement area. And have that in the 2 years, so to have that conversation with the appropriate parties to see what can be done and what our options are in today's world. Is that kind of the direction we're going? Because we don't really know what we don't know yet on that one. Councilor Duran.
My question is, do we think we may need some legal assistance on that beyond what we have the time capacity to do here? To maybe we need to, instead of a planner, we need to find some outside legal counsel that has experience with this. Would that be a possibility? I'm just talking through this now because if it's moved over to your department, do you have the capacity to work on this right in the next year?
I'll say this much. When I got here, right away there was an attorney, a local attorney working with a potential developer, and they were asking this question, and got on a conference call with the attorney and basically said, well, we wouldn't stand in the way. We're one of the parties to the settlement agreement, and we would like to be helpful because this is an area where potentially if Salem would relax some of their need for, say, a half-mile circle around it, that might be advantageous for a few of the landowners up there. And then I subsequently had a few discussions with Dan Atkinson, the Salem city attorney, about that. And he said that he put the public works folks on looking at something that would be data-driven. So that the idea is, instead of just drawing a circle on a map that's a half mile and say that's what it is, they're looking at the data now. So there will actually be more to come on this, but I don't perceive, to answer your specific question, I don't perceive that there would be much more legal work than I've been trying to do some relationship establishment with all of the local attorneys, and also then, trying to kind of talk out some of these issues and kind of grease the skids a little bit. So that's at least for a short term, until they can kind of come up with data-driven. But Salem itself has other fish to fry right now. So I'm not sure if we're getting backburnered or not.
Where do you want to land on this one? Clearly, we're interested. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Brown.
This may be helpful, but if there's a collective interest to do something to look at our options there, we don't necessarily have to presume a mode to accomplish it. It may be that we need legal support, but if it's your goal to look at our options there, we can come back to you and say we need either legal support or planners or just in staff or whatever
Okay. I'm going to go finish with Councilor Duran and then go to Councilor Kohler.
Another thought, the city of Salem owns quite a bit of property on that. Yep. Maybe they'd be interested in changing things so they could sell it.
I agree.
So just maybe a little push in that direction.
Yep, jinx. Yep. Well, anyway, so for the exercise tonight, what I would suggest is we take off the limited duration planner because that's a positional, and look at what we're trying to accomplish, which in this particular conversation is to add to our 2-year goals, to understand current options on the Willow Lake Settlement Agreement area. Would that be acceptable? I don't think it needs to be a goal. We can take both of those off for right now and understand these are all already in process because we have been discussing them and looking at maximizing the development within our urban growth boundary area is something that we have been working toward anyway. Sorry?
Sorry, you said urban growth boundary, so I said, is that staying on the list?
It's already, it's number 1 on the list. If you go to the previous
it's
page.
going to stay on the list is
Right.
what I'm asking.
Yeah, the urban growth boundary, because we're going to do the town halls this year.
Right.
To get some direction. Can you go back a page? There we go.
So can we put a check mark
What does that mean? What's a check mark?
under the approved for council short-term goals?
Are there any of these we want to take off? We just talked through this first page.
No.
I mean,
Discount.
can we, I think for me, I would want to see a conversation with the Parks Committee and come back to us before we put a tune-up on the goal. But we're going to, because we would do this, we can add to it later, right? Because I think the committee needs to talk about it and approve it before, if we heard there might be the potential, to cut back on Bob Newton, that was already approved, so I think it needs to go through the parks. The Bob Newton, you're looking at me. Huh, well, but it went through the process and conversation on, right, or it's in the budget coming through doing Bob Newton. I would rather have a conversation go through the Parks Committee before we decide to put it on our short-term goals. That just seems like we're circumventing the process if we put it on our goals and the committee hasn't talked about it.
Mr. Lawyer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For whatever it's worth, from a staff standpoint, I look at that list on the screen right now. Parks Master Plan Revision, Big Toy Tune-Up, Gold Star Memorial, those are done. Those are in process. Those aren't council goals. Those are already happening. So I don't see that, in my view, as a council goal.
I agree.
They could be listed as a council goal, but, they're not done.
Master plan revision.
But they're in process. And so
I think those are council goals.
those are more activities.
I would take Big
and
Toy and Gold Star off.
That's just my view of it, okay?
That's what, I really appreciate that thinking around it, that these are, well, the Big Toy tune-up can come as a Parks Board recommendation. Is that what I just heard? And I think, Counselor Cross, wasn't that what you were getting at?
Yeah, it needs to go through the process before we decide to make it a goal.
And it wouldn't necessarily be a goal, it would be a project. Some goals are projects, but some of them are bigger than that, they're policy. But this one, I thank you for being patient, and Counselor Cross, I hear what you're putting down. Thank you. So anybody object to taking those two off since they are projects?
You're talking about which two?
Big Toy and Gold Star. Gold Star is not a done deal, though. We're still
It's not a done
fundraising.
deal, and that's policy issues. I think Gold Star stays.
Yeah, we're not done with the fundraising. There's more involved in that. Am I wrong?
Right.
I think it does have to do with this.
We'll be in good shape if we receive the state grant, but if we don't, then we've got a big gap to fill in.
Counselor Kohler?
Is it the council's job to fundraise for the Gold Star Memorial?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
all of us are, yeah, we're,
I mean,
it's a city project. So I think, yeah, that's a good question. What do you think?
that was a policy decision that we made.
Yeah.
We wanted to go forward with the Gold Star Memorial.
And we adopted
We as a
it.
city adopted that and moved forward on it. And this is seeing it to fruition. I think it's a council goal to see it to fruition. And sometimes, sometimes that means one or all of us may get involved with fundraising or talking with other folks. But I think that's a council goal. And I'm fine with taking the Big Toy tune-up off the council goal. I think you're right, it's a project. But don't lose sight, we have hazardous safety situations in the park that is most used by our citizens, by the amenity that is most used by our children. And I know how you feel about Bob Newton Park, and I feel the same way. That's my old neighborhood. But the children that use that park, we have to address that surface and the safety issues that are there. Even if we don't put one coat of paint on anything, we got to address the safety issues.
Then that's not a goal, that's a parks function of
Just
the.
Okay, Counselor Cross.
And I would just put it out there that maybe after we get this, whatever we want to call it, project or vision or tune-up, that we have some kind of preventative maintenance program so it doesn't fall into this again.
So get it on the cycle. I think all the other parks are on a revolving cycle now, with replacement or repairs or just maintaining.
Yeah.
Yes, they are. So,
And this was done before we even did all that stuff, so.
yeah. It's a project. So, well, on the Big Toy, we'll do what you all suggested. You'll take it to the Parks Board. Parks Board will make recommendation to council, go through our usual process, correct? Mr. Lawyer, you know this is coming, so you're going to do your homework anyway.
Honestly, the repairs to the servicing are something Robert and I've been talking about anyway, so that's not a surprise.
Okay.
Do what?
Timing is a bit of a surprise, if you will, but the actual work is something we've been talking about anyway, so.
Okay, you're on it. Okay. So everybody good with how this looks right now? I heard a question on the discount program for under 60. What do y'all think? The last one on that page.
Tell that to a single mom with 4 kids. I said, if you don't think it's a goal, I said, tell that to a single mom with 4 kids who can't buy a dozen eggs. I mean, I think we owe it to our community to look at that and explore it.
Everybody good leaving it? Because it was something for staff to bring us back models for not this fiscal year, since our budget is nearing completion, or at least it's well underway. Is that a fair statement?
He's working at it as we speak. So.
But it would be probably for the next fiscal year.
Yeah, I think that's more realistic. Yeah.
Okay, I'm looking at Tim going, Yeah, there's plenty happening. Are we good with that page? Counselor Christopher, are we good with that page before we go back to the next one?
Yes.
Good? Next page.
Now I have a comment.
The one that had the other ones on it?
Doing
Oh, he's doing the check marks. Okay. Yep. Check the box. All right.
Okay.
ADA plan,
And these were going to be administrative.
those are both going to be administrative. Okay. Willow Lake settlement area options, instead of legal options, just options?
Yeah.
Can we just make it more general?
Yeah.
So we understand what that could be looked at? I'm coming to you. I
know.
saw.
I know you are.
All right. Okay. And we don't need to take off the limited duration planner because that's getting an answer to a question that we haven't defined. Sidewalk gap program,
Is that the same as the sidewalk ordinance?
no.
The sidewalk ordinance is the one where when a tree gets too big and citizens have to take care of it themselves and it can cost tens of thousands of dollars.
That's code enforcement.
But isn't there an ordinance for the way that is, I mean, we talked about that earlier, and that needs to be revisited. So I don't know what it's called, but that.
What is that? I don't understand.
Would that be the repair?
Mr. Lawyer?
That
Yeah,
is,
what's it called?
That is the sidewalk ordinance that stipulates maintenance and repair of sidewalks are the responsibility of the abutting property owner. That is the sidewalk ordinance.
Right, but we had talked about different ways, setting aside potentially money to help folks out, loaning them the money so that they could move forward. Some of those repairs get into the tens of thousands of dollars. And so,
We have one.
We had that. I thought we did.
We do.
we do what?
We have the LID program. We've only used it a couple times.
Local Improvement District Program, yes.
Yes, we do.
That is
Or sidewalks?
for any public improvement that exists. The challenge with that is that's an area type of system, if you will. Hornet Court is an example. For the individual property owner, that doesn't work very well.
Right.
Okay, so if you're looking at something for the individual property owner, that falls into, in my opinion, the sidewalk gap program discussion that's been had
Okay.
in the
That
past.
was my question.
Let me.
By the council.
Maybe gap and repair program?
Okay.
Yeah, I would differentiate that because, and we do have a program, whereas if it becomes an ordinance issue and somebody can't afford it, then we'll pay for it, and then
Put a lien.
it puts a lien on it. So it's somewhat kind of a finance mechanism. But the GAP program would be places where we don't have sidewalks.
Yeah.
The trees that would be a monumental financial task for the city to take responsibility for those. Monumental.
Well, I'm not giving you an answer. I'm just saying, I think that, so what happens now? What happens when a homeowner has a tree that grew up and that they had to put in, that's right.
Yeah.
That they were mandated to put in, and now it's going to cost $40,000, and they don't have $40,000, so what happens?
So one of the things we would like to see and maybe educate more about is that when it becomes to a certain size, they need to be taken down, and we have a fund to replace those trees within the right of way, and we can do that before it becomes too much of a problem. And again, maybe that's an education program too, but when you see that starting to lift too or sink, that's the indication, okay, we got to do something with, if it's tree root or something. But there are ways, some affordable ways to address the concrete, either rising or falling in there. So with local contractors, whether it's foam concrete, expansion concrete, works really well, not real costly. There's even a lot, sometimes if we catch it early enough, we can grade it, I don't know, what's the right word for that?
Grind it?
Grind it, yeah, grind it to smooth. So there's options, but we need to catch them early.
So is all that in the current ordinance? So does everybody feel that we're happy with that and we don't need to look at it?
Council President Starr?
I wonder if we do a work session on that, so
Maybe.
we understand it and we can dig into it versus making a goal of something that is about as clear as mud to me.
Okay, good. I like that idea.
I think it's great information that will get out to the community. Mr. Lawyer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to take the opportunity, if I may, to remind the council of the policy of the Public Works Department when it comes to trees versus sidewalks. City ordinances dictate that's all on the property owner, straight up, flat out, no argument. The Public Works Department's policy is this: if the tree is causing damage to the sidewalk and needs to be removed, or roots need to be cut, ground, whatever the case may be, the city Public Works Department, street fund, will pay for the removal of that tree, grinding of the stump, grinding of the roots. The property owner then pays to repair the sidewalk and replace the tree. We have been doing this for 20 years now, at least, out of good public policy, I will say, to get the repairs that are needed made. The repairs are needed to the sidewalk. The tree is an incidental part of that, albeit not a small part of it, but it's incidental to the sidewalk. So we have implemented that policy at least 20 years ago, and I will continue to implement that policy until either one, we run out of money, or two, I'm told otherwise. So just so you know how we operate, the policies we use to address sidewalks versus trees.
That's very helpful information. Thank you. Thank you. So is there a desire to have this as a work session topic? Because we're going to be doing some planning. So I'll put it on a list for us to talk about. So take it off the short-term goals at this point and have a work session that could also be a public conversation so people understand what we're doing.
Madam Mayor?
Yeah.
I don't want to take the sidewalk gap program off the short-term goal. I want the repair, I think what I was hearing is the repair portion of that would be the work session, but the gap program, I think, has been on long-term goals long enough.
I agree.
It's been on there a very, very long time.
Move it up.
Okay, now it wasn't through.
So I'm trying to understand to establish a program, to look at options for sidewalk gaps, because sidewalk gaps, are you talking about the areas in town that do not have sidewalks?
We need to start talking about how are we going to address that issue, and we need to start the conversation now. And if we put it on a short term, hopefully we'll start the conversation versus leaving it on long term for more years.
Okay.
We haven't made any progress.
Yeah, we have. There's been some big projects done where we've filled in large sections, and we're about to go to construction with another one, which is $10 million. The reason, the biggest expense, and Mr. Lawyer, correct me if I'm wrong, is not the sidewalk. It's the water. The storm water is the biggest expense on all these projects. I'm getting the head nod that I'm correct. Drainage. Yep. Draining into people's front yards they really don't like. Councilor Christopher, you have one.
I have two more.
Two?
Yes. One is, and maybe it's a long-term goal, but maybe it's a short-term goal.
Throw it out there.
Congestion on River Road.
Oh, well, I wrote down traffic congestion, so.
I think it's got to be, maybe it's on both. Maybe it's on, I think it's a forever, honestly, I mean, I think that's something we've got to continue to talk about and find solutions to, and I don't think any of us have the solution, but it's a huge problem. It's a huge problem. So,
Part of our transportation system plan?
is it?
Yeah.
There's, okay.
I don't know if I'd say it that strongly. At the state level, the OARs that govern transportation planning have shifted a lot with CFEC rules. So congestion is not the sole metric that are being looked at with TSP updates. There's more of a multimodal focus. I'm not a traffic engineer. I will say, as far as the congestion goes, just as a big, like a 10,000, maybe a 30,000 foot look on things like those concepts of congestion. So in 2009, the last time we updated our TSP, which Bill and I have joked about it because neither of us was really involved in that project. We both were here, but those were our predecessors were who shepherded those projects too through its process. But theoretically, a transportation system plan looks at a 20-year horizon, looks at, calculates, hey, this is the kind of growth you're going to have, the kind of trips you're going to create, what your intersections are doing currently, what needs to be done. And then there's a whole big slew of things that say all of these things need to get done to accommodate it and keep all your intersections operating at appropriate levels of service. So if we build out the whole TSP, we have no congestion. Now, the problem is like the money to build that out. And when we adopted our transportation SDCs after that TSP, when that was done, your predecessors had some options that were placed before them that said, okay, then there was there was tons of different packages of, we're going to put these things and not these things, and what are the things we're going to prioritize, and then encumber to say, okay, these are the kinds of things we're going to use SDCs. That's going to set what that SDC is that we collect for new builds, apartments, commercial, all of that based on a trip count. So we established all of that. I mean, that's all in the documentation for the last 20 years or 10 years or I don't know what that is. 16 years. So that's it's hard because I think there's a finite in the moment. Is there things we can do with traffic calming or something like that, which is an investment? But as far as a long range, that is something that we will be looking at with this TSP update. But I do know that with the new state rules that we have to adopt a transportation system plan under, it is not solely looking at congestion as your gold standard. It's looking at vehicle miles traveled. It's looking at multimodal infrastructure that you're building and prioritizing, which I don't want to get out of my lane too far, but that actually may speak to one of your other goals in that sidewalk gap and repair program, depending on how that process goes through and all of that. There may be a little bit of a nexus there that is created. But again, until we do the work, I don't know how that works, but just for what it's worth.
I would still like to add it to short-term and long-term. I think that everyone that we represent realize that traffic congestion, particularly on River Road, is a real problem. And I think we need it on there as just a point of, we want to expend time and effort thinking about short-term what we could do and long-term what we could do.
Throw it on there. Asking the question is a way to find out.
Okay, so we're going to add it to short-term and long-term?
Yeah?
Okay.
Anybody, what do you all think? I wanted, Councilor Kohler, did you have a comment?
And I have one last one. There's no other day. This is it. We're gonna
There's
get organized.
always tomorrow.
Okay, Scarlett. Okay, the last one I have is a Public Works succession plan. We have had the advantage of having Bill Lawyer for 28 years. 30 years comes, I believe it's April of 27, is that correct?
No, the date's correct, but the terminology a bit off. I'm working on my 36th year with this.
There you go.
I'll be
grown
65 in
up with the city.
2027, and that's my target date to retire.
April of 27. Now, I can't be the only one that's in a panic over that. because 38 years of experience is going to walk out the door. And Bill has grown up with that. You can't imagine what his workload is. He has so many departments that report to him. And here's my question, and I don't know how to put it on there other than to say, we need a plan for what is going to happen. We were lucky when Rob Kistler was here, his predecessor, because Bill was his second. So he worked right under Rob. So when Rob left us, we still had Bill. We don't have a second now. And is this the time that we start looking at offloading some of those responsibilities? Is it split between? I don't know the answers. I'm just saying, I don't want to get to Garrett. I don't want to get to January of 2027 and we haven't got a clue what we're going to do when Bill walks out the door. Because he is a significant, probably, I'm going to say it, probably more than any other city employee. You can't imagine what Bill's contributions have been. And he will be leaving in April of 27. So we need to be prepared for what the next iteration looks like for Public Works.
Mr. Brown?
Well, I think that's an administrative function. I don't know that's
That's fine.
political function.
I just want to put it out there.
It's not lost on me, believe me.
I don't want January of 2027 to come and we're trying to scramble and figure out and we're without someone for 6 months or something.
Yep.
Let's not have that happen. This is your number one job, Garrett.
So we've had turnover in all of our lead positions, and the team has done a fantastic job with bringing recommendations, job descriptions, and updates. So I would agree it's an administrative function, and if the team needs our help, you'll ask. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes, yep.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay, so short-term goals. Can we clarify on congestion as traffic? Thank you. Because I hear people cough. It's flu season.
Right on cue.
Thank you. But I think we need to, when we're putting the parameters on this, understand that this will, I think, be linked to the transportation system plan. This is not something that we get to do independent of it, but there's going to be a linkage to that. Well, CFAC is going to significantly impact our transportation system plan, and state rules are, especially if you want state money, come with their rules. And I like their money. When we can get it. Yeah. Bill's like, meh. Yeah. All right. So with that, let's look at both pages again real quick. Page 3, if you would, Mr. Brown. So looking at this one, we're good with what's been checked? Yes?
Yep.
No? Anything? Short term? Good. All right. Ready to go long? Go long. Okay. And then a third one, we're going to have to do a housing needs analysis update at some point, and I know that's more than 2 years from now, because we'll have to get a grant. Would that be true, Mr. Witham?
It'll be really close to the 2-year window of when we're obligated to, and it's called a housing capacity analysis now. The state's changed a lot of rules.
Okay.
a lot of the standards around how we're doing the housing needs analysis, and now there's the Oregon housing needs analysis, which kind of informs. So there's a HCA element, housing capacity analysis, as well as a housing production strategy piece that will go along with that. So I think it still sits in the long-term goal. Theoretically, it could. I don't know. There's a lot of.
Let's give ourselves some grace, put it here. If we get it done early, fantastic. How about that? Okay. So if we put it here and we can change the header, approved for long-term goals. So housing capacity analysis is what it's called now?
Yeah.
Okay. That's something that we're going to have to continue to plan for, especially when we're looking at urban growth boundary. That's going to impact there as well. Okay. Any objection to clicking that for long-term? And do we need to do an updated economic opportunities analysis, or is that also now outdated?
Yeah, I actually, Mr. Brown had worked with the Council of Governments last year, and we had actually applied for a grant to try to do an update to our EOA, our economic opportunities analysis. Unfortunately, we were unsuccessful in getting that. But yes, these are definitely elements that the housing capacity analysis, the economic opportunities analysis, population projections are all what drive and inform what is the land that you need for your growth. I mean, that's how you justify an urban growth boundary expansion. So I think our current EOA is from 2013. So definitely would be, I mean, we definitely think that it needs to be updated, especially when we've heard multiple times from the dais that, like, you know, job creation, employment lands, how to provide jobs for the people that are living here in Kaiser. That's an important thing to council, or at least we've heard that. So yeah, it would be ideal if we could get both of those things kind of done together.
Okay. And yeah, that would be great to get those updated. Any objection to continuing to seek the funding to get that done? Yeah, we have to update the EOA. It's old. Okay. Anything else? Okay. Do you want to keep UGB under long-term as well? Yeah. Urban growth boundary, whatever that looks like. Yeah. Options.
Last year was evolution.
Yeah, because we had no idea what was going to happen, and we didn't get a chance to finish the work with getting input from the community. Of course, we were still coming out of the COVID shutdown, too. So now we've already said we are going to go ahead and do town halls. Anything else? I mean, not that I want to add to this, because all of these are significant. Can I throw one out there? It's bothered me for a long, long time, and do with it as you will. Streetlight districts. And Tim's going to go, no. It bothers me that there are areas of town that don't have streetlights, especially the neighborhoods around the high school. They're dark as dark. They don't want to hold one. We don't know that. Well, actually, the residents do. It's the property owners we can't reach. But what are other options to light those streets, especially around our schools? And it's not necessarily related to, you know,
Work session.
all the
Town hall.
Yeah, I'd like to at least have the conversation, because can we do a work session on options? This is one of those things that for years, and you walk to McNary High School and it's just dark. After the football games, Newburgh, Orchard, all of that is dark. So would that be okay to at least put it on for a work session? Okay. It's really, yeah. For what? Okay, thank you. So Okay. Did you have a next slide? Okay. So real quick, I know it's 7:36. We talked about, we have a number of town hall and work session topics, and we now have another one. But before we do that, looking at the resolution that was passed in, for the 23-24, and this is on our council rules, and we didn't take it out yet, but there was a time period when the city council did adopt certain items for the work plan, and it's my job to give a report. So I have it real quick. So on the second, on page 5 of 6 of our packet, this is page 2 of the resolution. Be it further resolved, the city council does hereby adopt the following work plan, and it was things that the city council did. So the community complete the strategic planning process. We just bumped it now to our short-term goals to complete this biennium, so that's where we're at. The community diversity engagement, we established the committee, and the representatives on there were Councilors Starr and Reed, and we are now continuing with that engagement. We've got an engagement framework, we've got definitions, we did assign projects like our neighborhood traffic management program and others that we've asked the committee to do. So that is proceeding forward based on our recent work session. Volunteer committee training and onboarding. So that was started. Councilor Kohler did training for committee chairs. Now there is an opportunity for us to link up with the Oregon City Manager Association. The OCCMA now has a civic education toolkit that we can adapt to our needs. And I would recommend that we have the VCC look at it and that we just link it to our website, make it available for folks, for us to use. It's fantastic. So I want to thank Councilor Kohler for doing the chair training and helping our chairs be successful, and that we now have a resource that will be able to be in writing that we can carry forward.
So what's it called?
It is called, and I'll send you all the link. This is the Oregon City Manager Association, and it is their Civic Education Toolkit. And
Can we look at it before?
yeah, it's fantastic. It's on their website, and I'll send you the link. It's through the League of Oregon Cities.
Great,
Okay. We heard a presentation at the last conference. The housing disparity and barriers to home ownership in Kaiser. This is something we really weren't able to make a lot of progress on because a lot of this is not in our wheelhouse. However, and again, I did not know this, and it turns out a lot of us didn't. The Salem Housing Authority is actually not a part of the city of Salem. It is an independent agency established in 1969. Their service area is the Salem-Kaiser urban growth boundary. So, which includes the city of Kaiser. We don't have representation. And as a matter of fact, I didn't even know that, I thought we were under Marion counties. I was wrong. So I have met with with Nicole Utes, who is the executive director, and there is a meeting scheduled for Councilor Cross and myself to meet with Linda Nishioka. She is the council president for the Salem City Council, which makes her the chair of the Salem Housing Authority board. And we're going to have a conversation. So why do I bring this up? Thank you for asking. There are new programs for home ownership that are being administered by the Salem Housing Authority. They're the ones who do this work. So to finish this off, I want to see if we can have a work session or at least an informational with the Salem Housing Authority to learn more. And there may be opportunities we didn't even know about, and they're already in the works. And how can we continue to expand opportunity for home ownership in Kaiser?
So why don't you two meet with her first?
We are.
And then let us know.
Yeah.
And we'll decide on work session.
Right, but I just wanted to let you know that as this was one of the work plan items,
Okay.
that's how that's going to be resolved at this point. 40th birthday party, Councilor Kohler and Councilor Reed led the way, along with tremendous help from Robin Barney and our neighbors associations, and it was a delightful event. Hire city attorney, ta-da! check the box. So there's my report. So really quick then on topics, this is what I've kind of penciled, but again, this is our list, and I just want to put it out there. So we're going to have our semi-annual meeting with the Long Range Planning Task Force on March 10th. In April, we are now going to an annual meeting with our neighborhood associations, and I would suggest that be our work session with them. April. May is budget. June, we've said we're going to meet with the Community Diversity Engagement Committee. Can we look at July or August for a work session on the streetlights, or is that too soon?
What did we have under short term for work session?
We have one, yeah, another one. Yeah, okay. So we have sidewalk and we have streetlight.
I think we better do sidewalk.
Let's do sidewalk. Is there a preference, and because I'm looking at our staff members, for July or August or October, because September is parks? Do you care? Council, do you care?
No.
So do you want to say sidewalk, July?
Yeah. Then August is streetlights?
August streetlights. September is parks tour?
Madam Mayor, can
Yes, sir.
entertain.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Lawyer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ben recently talked about fluoride.
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 Yep, we need to do town halls on UGB and fluoride.
Okay.
So when do we want to do
Let's
those?
finish work session.
Okay. And then
October?
October? Well, not necessarily. I mean, yeah, it would be nice to have them.
Well, if we don't have anything, then
Yeah.
October.
Was that, I don't have anything. In November is the other hang on.
October, we don't have any work session?
So stand by. November is the other semi-annual long-range planning task force, because we did in November this year, right?
Yeah.
So those are the two, those are taken. The ones I didn't have anything written down was October and December, and please not December.
So let's do a town hall in October instead. Or
Do you wanna
just
do-
leave it open in case something's gonna come up.
Are we gonna put fluoride there?
Well, I would,
Work session.
Oh, not in a work
yeah.
session.
Or you
No.
wanna do a town hall or work session?
we committed to town halls.
Then let's do town.
So if we can leave October open because stuff comes up. So that one is TBD. So let me go real quick. March, long-range planning. April, neighborhood association. May, budget. June, community diversity engagement. July, sidewalks. August, streetlights. September, parks. October, just in case. November, long-range planning task force. December, please not. Yeah. Okay. There were two sets of town halls, urban growth boundary and fluoride. So we're going to have to schedule those. Which one do you want to tackle to try to get scheduled and put together first?
Mayor?
I heard fluoride, Councilor Christopher.
Since this is new to us, town halls, we haven't done town halls.
You have.
We have?
Yeah.
When did we do them?
We had them for parks fee and police
Oh, okay,
fee.
so a long time ago.
It's been a few, well, it had, before COVID. We have, remember, the COVID,
So
it's in the before times.
shouldn't we or couldn't we do the first one and just let it be open format and just invite citizens in with coffee and donuts and let them talk about what they want to talk about? Couldn't we do that as the first one, just inviting citizens in? No, we've set a time limit.
Do you want
And do it in the living room.
conversation starters? Do you want, I mean,
Yeah,
what do you have in mind?
Yeah.
Council President Starr?
I mean, I think we've been enough to enough of them with our federal legislators and Congress people that we know that they can put a if we're hosting it for an hour or an hour and a half, they can put their question in the bucket,
There you
or
go.
they,
There you go.
put their
Oh, yeah.
ticket in, and if we
Let's do
draw it
that
out, then they
first.
can ask their question.
Let's listen to them first.
Yeah.
Let's listen, really listen.
Yeah, I've done, we have done some of those on a smaller scale. So we could do that. But again, these are the two topics we promised that we would get done.
We'll announce them at that one. So what do we call that one? Welcome to Town Hall, or just, I don't know.
I mean, you don't have to call it anything. You
Just
can
a
just
town
have
hall?
it be a town hall. I mean, Salinas didn't label her town hall anything
Just
other
town hall.
than town hall.
Okay, like, I'd sure like to do that first. Just listen to citizens.
I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
My question is, what day of the week are you planning on doing this? Because if we want to include all the citizens, we either need to do it quote unquote in the evening or on a Saturday.
I think we should do it Saturday morning.
You want to help the neighbors, invite the neighbor associations to help us? Because they're the ones who have been doing this.
Well, sure, why not?
They're,
More the merrier. I mean, look,
just need to be-
I'm all about inclusive, so let's include the neighborhood associations, let's include Kaiser United. Let's throw it out there and say, we want to have our first town hall, and I think we should set town halls on Saturdays, period. I think Council President's right. If we want to engage citizens, I mean,
that's when I do my
They're
coffee
working
with
people.
Kathy, is on Saturdays. I've
So
done
we
that for
can't do
10 years.
this?
No, that's why I do them on
okay,
Saturdays.
okay, sorry, I misunderstood.
So
I
I've
say
been
we
doing those for
do,
years.
I say we do like 10 to 11:30, so that people don't have to get out of bed early. I mean, is that just me?
Yes. That's a you thing.
Fine.
Jenna and Hoda is not on Saturday
Not on
morning.
Saturdays, no, I'm all yours. It's Adam too. I just think Saturday, I mean, I don't care. No earlier than 9, for heaven's
So
sake.
we have the community, we have fluoride, we have UGB, and we have a TBD.
Yep.
Yeah, that'll be our 4 town halls. I like it. I like it. Fluoride, you want to do fluoride next? What do you want to do for the second one, Kathy?
UGB.
UGB?
Yes.
Okay. And then fluoride?
Yep.
And then
Can do
TBD.
that one.
By then, we'll have some new controversy. Yeah. I like it. Cool.
All right. Okay, so that's, yeah, with the town halls, we'll have to figure out how we want to schedule those and so forth, but we have a schedule for our work sessions. Anything else that we need tonight?
I do too. I think we're outstanding.
All right. Mr. Brown, did we leave any questions or what the hecks for you?
I think we're in a good position, and just want to let you know that we are your implementation team. So we're here to make what your vision possible.
Well, and you guys are the pros. We want to make sure that we set you up for success. The time is 7:50. We are adjourned.